In this video, we will learn about respiratory organs in man. Lungs are the main respiratory organs in our body. Respiration through lungs is called pulmonary respiration. So the word pulmonary is related to lungs. Our respiratory system is formed of conducting organs and main respiratory organs. First, let's understand about conducting organs. So the conducting organs of respiratory tract are nostrils, nasal passages, pharynx, larynx, trachea, bronchi, and bronchioles. Main respiratory organs are lungs. In this image over here, we have the respiratory system in human. So here we can observe this is nose, this is the nasal passage. Here we have the trachea. The trachea divides into bronchi and bronchioles, and these are our lungs. And lungs are the main respiratory organ. Let's understand all these one by one. First is nostrils and nasal passages that are part of nose. Nostrils or external nares are a pair of slits at the lower end of the nose just above the mouth. These are the openings of nasal passages or nasal cavities. So here we have our nostrils. Nasal passages are paired tube in the roof of buccal cavity. They are separated from the buccal cavity by a bony palate. They are lined with moist, ciliated mucous membrane. Nasal passages open into the pharynx by internal nares. So here we have our nasal passage, and this nasal passage is separated from buccal cavity by the palate. Now let's understand the functions of nasal passages. The hair present in the nostrils trap bacteria and dust particles present in the inhaled air. The moist mucous lining of nasal passages makes the air moist, and nasal passages warm or cool the air to the body temperature before it enters the lungs. Olfactory receptors are present in the mucous lining of nasal passages in order to detect the smell. Now let's understand about second part, that is pharynx. In pharynx, the food tube, that is esophagus, and the air tube, that is trachea, cross each other. In this image we can observe this is the food pipe, that is esophagus, and this is the trachea, that is windpipe. And here we can observe a common region which is called as pharynx. The opening of air tube or trachea in the pharynx is called glottis. So this region, so here we can observe this is the trachea and this is the opening of trachea. So this opening is called as glottis. It is guarded by cartilaginous flap called epiglottis. So here we can observe the flap, and this is called as epiglottis. During swallowing, epiglottis closes glottis and keeps the food out of respiratory tube. So here we can observe that this epiglottis will close this glottis whenever we swallow the food. Next part is larynx or voice box. The anterior part of trachea is dilated and is called larynx or voice box. It has two pairs of vocal cords which helps to produce sound. The vibration of vocal cord produces voice. So here we can observe this part is called as larynx and it is also known as voice box. The next part is trachea, also known as windpipe. It is a long tube extending from larynx in the neck to bronchi in the thoracic cavity. It lies ventral to esophagus. Here we can observe, so this entire tube is called as trachea, also known as windpipe, and it lies ventral to esophagus. That means if this is esophagus, this would be the ventral side, that is in front of esophagus. Its wall is supported with C-shaped cartilaginous rings. Because of these rings, trachea does not collapse. Now let's understand about bronchi and bronchioles. Bronchi is singularly called as bronchus. On entering thoracic cavity, trachea divides into two primary bronchi, and the right bronchus is slightly larger than the left one. In this image we can observe this is the trachea, and trachea or windpipe divides into two parts, and these two parts are called as bronchi. Each primary bronchus enters the lung of its side and immediately divides into secondary and tertiary segmental bronchi. So here we can observe that this bronchi is branching and dividing into secondary and tertiary bronchi. These divide into bronchioles, terminal bronchioles, and respiratory bronchioles. A bronchus with its branches is called as bronchial tree. So here we can see this is one bronchus with its branches, and this entire thing would be called as bronchial tree. The next part is alveolar sacs and alveoli. Singularly it is called as alveolus. The respiratory bronchioles finally end in alveolar ducts. Each alveolar duct is connected with several thin-walled alveolar sacs with numerous alveoli or air sacs. Here we can observe the alveoli. So here this is the alveolus or the air sac, and this is the bronchiole, and here we can observe that it is richly supplied with blood capillaries. Now let's understand about nature and function of lining of respiratory passages. The larynx, trachea, bronchi, bronchioles, and respiratory bronchioles transport fresh air to the respiratory surface of alveoli. They are lined with ciliated epithelium, which also contains mucus cells. The movement of cilia removes mucus with dust particles towards mouth and keeps the respiratory passage clean. Now let's understand about lungs, the main respiratory organs. The lungs are a pair of conical, highly spongy, air-filled sacs formed of millions of alveoli. Lungs occupy major part of the thoracic cavity, and the right lung is larger with 3 lobes while the left lung has just 2 lobes. It is smaller in size to accommodate the heart. Here we can observe this is our right lung and this is the left lung. Right lung has 3 lobes, this is first, second, and third lobe, whereas left lung has only 2 lobes, this is the first lobe and this is the second lobe. The lungs are enclosed by double layered membrane called pleura or pleural membrane. The two pleural membranes are separated by a thin space filled with pleural fluid. The fluid lubricates the membranes to avoid friction. The lungs are enclosed in airtight thoracic cavity. Now let's understand blood supply to lungs. Pulmonary arteries bring deoxygenated blood from right auricle to lungs. These form capillary network on the surface of each alveolus of lung. Here we can observe this is the alveolus, and here we can see the network of blood capillary. The oxygenated blood from the alveoli is collected in the capillaries, which join and rejoin to form pulmonary veins. These are 4 in number and they empty in left auricle. Left auricle is the part of heart from where the blood is pumped throughout the body. Here we can observe that the diffusion of carbon dioxide and oxygen is taking place. Blood capillaries carry deoxygenated blood from which the carbon dioxide is diffusing into alveoli and oxygen from alveoli is diffusing into the blood. Because of this, deoxygenated blood gets converted into oxygenated blood. I hope this topic is clear to you. Thank you.